This episode brought to you by Peter Wood's Museum of the Impossible.
What's a Museum of the Impossible? It's gonna be like Harry Potter meets Ripley's Believe It or Not. It'll be a one-of-a-kind, themed, interactive space where people can experience the impossible. But I need your help. To get the project started, I've set up a Patreon over at museumoftheimpossible.com. If you're able to throw a few bucks my way each month, we can build it together. Thanks for your support, and I can't wait to welcome you into the Museum of the Impossible.
Welcome to the podcast of The Impossible. I'm Peter Wood, and my guest today appears at events throughout the DMV as a magician and wrestler. Looking forward to hearing about both as I welcome Magic Mike Madness.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. I'm so glad we got a chance to make this happen. We've been talking about it for a minute, so this is cool. And for folks who are not familiar with you, I always love to talk, and actually I don't really even know the answer to this, which is exciting. What's your origin story? When did you get bit by the bug?
Yeah, so how I became the Joker, a villain. No, I was about 10 years old, and I'll never forget this. I walked into a Toys R Us, which goes to show my age. They don't exist anymore. But I was with my mom, and this gentleman came up to me and my mom and said, "Hey, can I show you guys a magic trick?" And my mom said, "Sure." So he did the basically the foam balls. So, he took a ball, placed it in my hand. He had another red ball in his hand. Then he snapped his fingers, and the ball in his hand disappeared.
Okay.
And immediately I was like, "What?" And then he said, "Now I want you to open your hands on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Boom. 2 balls were in my hand, and I said immediately, "What the fudge?" Only thing is, I didn't say fudge.
Oh, no.
So, and I was in front of my mother at the time. And so I said, "I'm sorry, Mom." She goes, "No, it's okay. I don't understand how he did it." I was like, "I know." So I was just freaked out. And I said, I got to learn how to do this to people. I got to give other people this feeling that I had. I thought it's just not fair for me to hold this all on my own. So ever since then, I was looking for a magic shop. And as you also, I'm sure, know, and as many magicians in the DMV know, is called Denny and Lee's. Was the shop I found. And so when I went to his shop, at the time, it was not the bigger location. It was a much smaller location, almost like the size of a shack. Right. I just remember walking in. The place was filled with cigarette smoke. And he goes, "Hi, welcome to Denny and Lee's. I'm Denny. How can I help you?" And I remember I said, "Hi, I'm Mike. I want to learn how to make things disappear." He goes, "Perfect. Do you know how to read?" And
No.
So in my head, I'm sitting here thinking, like, that's a stupid question.
Right.
Sir, take me in the back. Let me slay the dragon so I can get my magical powers. I know how this works. Right. That's not how it works, unfortunately. But so the first thing that Denny recommended to me was Bobo's Coin Magic, which is a great book on sleight of hand. And, you learn a lot of great basic things and also even some advanced things. And I didn't really want to read books. I just wanted to get trick after trick after trick. And then so maybe I would say like a few months passed after me buying trick after trick after trick, and I started realizing this is expensive. So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just get this book because it happened to be at my school library at the time, which I was very surprised about. And then from there, I started reading and I started learning how to do sleight of hand and how to really make things disappear, how to do things like palming and just different little moves and maneuvers and how to place my hand, how to hold my hand. And so I was like, maybe picking up a book and reading about it really is better than buying trick after trick. So from there, I started coming up with my own versions of things. I started doing coin tricks, and I started doing tricks with paper, and I actually used to do this trick, which is totally gross when I think about it now, but there was a trick where I would, and I'm going to totally reveal the secret because it's so gross. You should never do it.
Awesome.
I would have someone write a name on a piece of paper, and I would then rip it up, and then I would say, "Okay, watch very closely," and I would place it in my mouth, and then I would kind of like stare at them because I would watch Chris Angel at the time. I thought I was the mind freak. Nope. Anyway, so what I would do then is I would pull that paper out, and then their name that they wrote down was full paper, and I thought this was the most amazing thing at the age of 13.
Right. Okay.
And it's gross. I just had 2 pieces of paper in my mouth, and Yeah. But
So the one you gave them was a second piece of paper, and it had been hanging out in your mouth for how long at this point?
at least 10 to 15.
Okay, sure.
I was
All right.
talking about other things.
Yeah, okay.
And so
The best trick is just talking with a piece of paper in your mouth and them not realizing it.
yeah,
That's awesome.
I'm doing it right now.
Okay. Oh, hey, nice. Thank you.
No, but the funniest thing is too is like no one ever wanted to take the paper back, so they just believe.
There you go.
Like,
Okay.
got it.
All right. Yep. That was it. Yeah.
So, but yeah, just kind of like cut to this other portion though. So a couple years passed by.
Okay.
And I actually remember Denny Lee's, and I called the shop, and he goes, "Hey, Michael," and I go,
What?
How do you know this is me? He
Yeah.
goes, "I'm a magician." I said, "That's crazy. I also have caller ID." Oh,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
you go. So I go to the shop, and once again, I'm like, "Hey, Denny, it's good to see you." I'm trying to learn some new tricks. Is there anything cool in the market? And he goes, "Can I recommend a book to you?"
Yeah.
That's it. I don't know. Let me check this trick.
Yeah.
But then he said, "Well, I really want to recommend this book to you. It's called Tarbell." Now, for those who are not magicians, Tarbell is what we as magicians call like the magic Bible. It has so many great tricks, so many great basic things, so many great advanced things you can learn. And so one day I decided to pick up Tarbell and started reading it and started really creating my own versions of the tricks I would read about, or it allowed me to also think outside the box. I would start thinking about things about how people are, how people look, because it talks about this as well, like how you could tell a certain person and what kind of effect or what kind of trick you might want to do for them, depending on how their head might be shaped, or how they might be sitting, how they might be reacting with their friends.
Right.
And so from there, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna create a new version of magic, my version of magic, which is unique to me.
Well, and so here, what I'm curious about is, did you find it difficult? Tarbell was written beginning in like the 1915s. I mean, like it was old during World War II.
Yeah.
Did you find it tough to work through that sort of stuff, or were you able? And even, I mean, Modern Coin Magic, the Bobo book you mentioned, like as somebody who was starting off in it, and especially like if you're watching Chris Angel and then you're reading this book, those to me as a younger person would seem very different. Like what he's doing and what their book is talking about are sort of, this is old man archaic stuff and this is cool, new and hip. Were you able to sort of synthesize that and figure that out, or what?
I think when I first started, especially we'll start with Bobo for a moment. Like when I would watch Chris Angel do the stuff he was doing, he had things like he would make a coin disappear, but then have it appear in his arm, and he would slice his arm open. And obviously, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to go and take a knife and cut my arm open.
Right. Okay.
But I was like, okay, well, there's got to be some basic way he did this. And someone else that I would look up to a lot, and I still to this day absolutely love and adore, David Blaine.
Yeah.
He would do a lot of very basic, simple things, and that's actually a person I also wanted to be very much like. Okay. And that's actually what actually kind of influenced me. And I'm going to get back to your question as well, but that's what also influenced me to really step out and do what I call, what's known as street magic.
Sure.
Really, it's just close-up magic for people, out in the streets that aren't paying me.
Right.
But
yeah, it's a great profession.
It's wonderful. It makes tons of no.
Yeah.
But no, I really would take the time to read like things like Bobo, and I would realize, okay, I got to start somewhere. Okay. I can't start on expert mode, as they call it.
Sure.
I got to start somewhere. So let me learn these very basic things. And honestly, because at the time, being a young kid, I wasn't a huge person who loved to read too much. Okay. But it started helping me to love reading more, because I was like, I'm actually getting something out of this. And then I would practice it. And I'm not going to reveal any like secrets here or anything, or tell people where to look at. But like there were certain, let me see how I want to say this, certain slights that was in that book that allowed me to learn the things that Chris Angel was doing. Oh, sure. There were certain things that would allow me to learn certain things that David Blaine could have been doing. And then from there, because I was able to learn the kind of simplicities of it, learn how to create my own way of doing it. And then, go into other gross magic, like putting things in my eyes and mouth and such. So
nice. Well, yeah. So I mean, yeah. I'm glad to hear. I mean, that you were able to figure out, to sort of look at these old books and still find the parts of what you loved about guys like David Blaine and Chris Angel, but find the tools for it in the books. And you're a teenager at this point, like
at that time I was a teenager.
So you're doing things for family and friends, or what's sort of the audience at that point?
Yeah, so I wanted to start off with like friends in school and such.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would watch, some people wouldn't. And then I would try to go into, of course, my family because sometimes they would watch, sometimes they wouldn't. Mostly they wouldn't. I noticed that my best audience, though, honestly, quite honestly, was my dog, because he would typically always be there. He'd never leave me, especially if I had food around.
Okay.
But no, honestly, my best audience, I would have to say, was just random people, that were in the streets, because like I knew that they don't know me, so they would be honest.
Sure.
Especially if I would just catch a bus somewhere or whatever.
Yep.
But I will say that my mother was very supportive of me, and I was super appreciative of it because she believed in me, especially even when I didn't really believe in myself.
Sure.
And she would be very honest, like, "Hey, this is good. This is really good." Or,
nice.
"Oh, don't try that."
Yeah.
But it's like I would take as much time to record and practice in the mirror, and but I think there's no real point of practicing something just in front of yourself a gazillion times.
Yeah.
If you don't ever take it out to people you don't know, take it out to strangers, and
sure.
That's where I started learning. Like, wow, I really love doing street magic. I love doing magic out in public where people don't expect it. Because people always would tell me too, like, "Hey, I've seen this on TV, but I always thought it was fake."
Right. And I'm like, and when Chris Angel does it, it is. But
it's all in edit.
Yeah. I mean, allegedly. Sorry, I don't want to get sued. Allegedly. But yeah, I think there is something. Well, Bob Cassidy, mentalist, who is influential. Anyway, talked about. He doesn't think there's any such thing as an amateur mentalist. And what he meant by that is less about money and more about, it's hard, especially with something like mind reading, or even the extension of like magic powers. Your family and friends are never going to believe that you actually have the power to do the whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas if you are approaching random people on the street, you can be this like interesting fantasy character that maybe has figured out how to unlock something, so I think that's interesting that you found that audience, and I assume that was direct result of like you saw David Blaine and Chris Angel going out and doing that for people, and so you're like, I guess that's what I do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then I also move into like websites and such, and like people like Andrew Garcia, and Wayne Gantz, like it's just like how are these people doing this? I'll never forget the time I learned how to levitate.
Okay.
And when I say levitate, I mean David Blaine style levitate. And I'll never forget, I finally figured out the secret. And I called my best friend's mom. And I said, "Hey, I want you to know I can levitate."
Okay.
And she said, "That's amazing."
And then you hung up? Or was it?
Oh yeah, no, it just hung up right there. So I started doing that.
Okay.
We're like, okay.
Now, and to be clear, the levitation that you're doing is what people saw David Blaine doing.
Yeah.
And not what was great about the special is that the only there was a little bit of differentiation between what the audience at home was seeing and what the people standing there were seeing.
Yeah.
But that it is really funny where if someone says like, "Can you levitate like David Blaine?" Well, yeah, I can. Actually, I can levitate exactly the way he did, but it's not going to look as good because you don't have the film crew,
Yeah. Which actually is really funny to think about too, because like the art of levitation and how people have like come up with so many methods in so many different ways. Like even with Chris Angel, or like you've seen him do these grand levitations, but then also if you watch some of his specials, he does very simplistic levitations.
Okay.
the methods that he's using is quite impeccable. You know, because
Sure,
it's like, wow,
sure.
who would have thought of that?
Yeah.
At the time when David Blaine was doing his levitation, his simplistic levitation, I'll say that 'cause I don't want to say what it's called.
Yep.
But it's funny though because I feel like so many people kind of know now like how he does it. It's
Right.
But at the time, everyone freaked out. Like everyone lost their minds over that, and also the other version.
Sure.
But I think that it's funny that it's really about the times and when you're doing something, not always what you're doing, because you can do the most simplistic maneuver or magic and have everyone talking about it. You can also do the biggest trick in the world and spend millions of dollars and no one care.
Yeah. No, that's and yeah. I think sometimes as magicians that's frustrating to us because we know how long we've spent learning whatever, and then you might do something else that is a virtually self-working trick, and it gets as big, if not bigger, of a reaction. And that's, I think that's part of why it's fun hanging out with fellow magicians, though, because then we can appreciate the work that went into it better as opposed to a random person on the street, So at what point did you think about ever doing it for money? Like there's the only money in street magic is if you like pass the hat, like, and that also, that's basically a stage show. Like busking is different from street. Well, maybe we should talk like, so when you're talking about street magic, you're not talking about, gathering a large crowd and holding them for 20 minutes and then passing around a hat and getting tips at the end, right?
No,
okay.
Not at all.
So how do you define street magic and how you approach it?
So typically, and I'll say also too, the way that I used to do it, is almost the way I do it now, but I think it gets a bigger reaction now than I did before. I would just go to random people and I would somehow try to build a confidence too, because a lot of people don't know this, but I have a bit of social anxiety at certain points in time in my life. Okay. And I would kind of be afraid to talk to people, but at the same time I wanted to talk to people. It was like it was like a bittersweet, so I would go up to random people if they looked friendly, and I would say, hey, I kind of want to try something. I'm a magician, or I'm trying to be a magician, and I want to try something with you. If that's okay, do you mind just giving me your reaction? And then I would try it, and people would be like, "Oh, this is really good. This is pretty nice." Yeah. And especially the fact I was a young kid, so there's a lot more mercy. So my style of magic is street magic. I call is me going up to random people. Showing them effect, and I'll just a quick 5-10 minutes and walk away. No big grand show or anything like that. Now when I do it, it's more like I'll do that, but then like a crowd just ends up gathering and because they're like, hey, yo, Joey, get over here.
Yeah, you gotta see that.
Get over here, and it's like, which is, it's great, because it gives me more time to talk to more people and get my magic out there and everything. And then of course, I think that's a great way that I get a lot of word of mouth gigs anyway. So like people end up hearing about me, and through that, want to bring me in for things. So
do you think there's a problem of doing what you do for free sometimes and paying and having people pay for it other times, or does that not matter?
No. So I have certain effects that I delegate for my shows where people are paying. Those are a lot more. I don't want to say difficult, but a lot more detailed, a lot more very much just designed for a show. Versus when I'm doing street effects or street magic or close up, those are things that I'm like, hey, I can do this a gazillion times, and I can, sometimes it's me testing tricks out too. Especially because I'm like, hey, if I mess this up, I'm never gonna see you again. So
that's great.
But I feel like I always have certain effects that I'm like, I would never do this for free, because that's just, or if I do it for free, it like has to be for a really good cause. But
no, I think that's valid. And also it's like, I don't think you're leaving money on the table. Those random people that you approached in the mall were not going to be paying you anyway. So as long as you didn't have to turn down a paid gig to go do street magic for free, who cares? You're enjoying it. You're spreading joy by doing it. You're practicing. You're gaining flight time. You're all that stuff. So That makes sense.
But also to kind of go off of a question you were asking me earlier was, when did I guess kind of like figure out like, hey, I want to do this for money?
Yeah.
I actually, for the longest time, all the way up till I would say 17, 18, didn't want to charge people for my magic because I felt guilty because I truly enjoy what I do. Like, I truly enjoy performing magic for people. I perform talking to people. And I was like, I have too much fun doing this.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not fair for me to charge you for me to have fun.
Right.
But it wasn't until actually Denny Haney, Scott Alexander also told me this too, and a few other great magicians told me, like, Mike, like, you are leaving so much money on the table. You could be making money doing this. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then it wasn't actually until it wasn't actually until I went to a pizza shop and I was just doing some tricks or whatever, just having fun, whatever.
Okay.
And they asked me to do a family fun night, and they were like, "Hey, we can't pay you, but we'll give you free food, and you can promote yourself." And da da da. I said, "All right, cool." And so I actually had this little girl who just absolutely adored me and fell in love with me. It was like, "Oh my God, can we have you for my birthday party?"
Yeah.
And so, I was like, you know what? Sure, why not? And so they were like, well, how much do you charge? I said, tell me what you feel is free.
There you go.
Tell me what you feel is fair,
Yeah.
And so from there,
that was a good Freudian slip there. Tell me what you feel is free. I mean, fair. Sorry. Fair.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so then she gave me a certain amount, and I was like, that's way more than I thought you were going to say.
That's great.
But I was like, I'll just do it, And then from there, I was like, wow, like I just did my first magic gig. And I got paid for it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
And you're a late teenager around that time?
Yeah, at this time I was about maybe 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But then it wasn't until, I guess, technically 2 months ago that I made the decision to become a full-time magician.
Yeah, sure.
So,
okay.
And honestly, that was quite a journey if we have time for that journey.
Sure. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, I was just working different jobs and working because of course I got bills, but bills don't disappear. I wish they did.
Yep.
And one day I was just, I don't know, I was getting this feeling over me, and I was just like, I hate working for this company, that company, and I'm not really getting closer to my goal. I'm not getting closer to the freedom that I want. I'm not happy working for other people, them telling me when I need to clock in or clock out, or when I need to be here or need to not be here. And it's like, you know what? I made the decision. I can't do this alone. If I'm going to step out and just do something that I enjoy, I'm going to pray. So I prayed, and I literally prayed to God, and I said, God, what should I do? And then I kid you not, randomly, I was doing just Uber on the side, just to make some extra money or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
And so something just said, Michael, just quit your job.
Okay.
And I was like, okay.
Wait. A passenger?
No.
Oh, just
no, I just had this. I had a feeling. Just quit your job.
Okay.
So, but when I went to go do Uber, I started realizing, wow, I'm actually making more money than I'm doing than I was working for people.
Wow.
So I was like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and just quit and just see if I can do it. That's my first time taking a chance on myself.
Sure.
Then second, this was like the day after I prayed. I actually ended up picking up a gentleman, and he actually is the head of VIP for the band Counting Crows.
Oh, nice.
Which I was like, that's crazy. Like, I listen to them every week anyway, especially when I'm doing my Uber runs. It's chill music.
Sure.
And so the funniest thing is, he was like, hey, I really feel this positive energy off of you. I don't know what it is. And I said, well, thank you. I try to put that out at my magic shows when I do them.
Yeah,
he goes, oh, you're a magician? I said, yeah. He goes, that's crazy. I'm the head of VIP for Counting Crows. What are you doing Wednesday? I said, I don't know. I should be free. Wow, what's up? He goes, do you want to come by and do an hour of magic for our VIP guests? And I'll take you backstage and let you experience, the setup and, the sound check.
Yeah.
I said, let me think about it. Heck yeah.
Let me see what I got going on. Nice.
Yeah, so I did that, and he said, I just want to just test and see how good you really are.
Yeah.
And so ever since that happened, I went and did it, and it went really well. He was mind blown. Everyone as the guests were mind blown.
Yeah.
And so ever since that day, when I tell you, every week I started getting booking after booking after booking after booking to the point where like I'm not really even doing Uber really. I'm just doing magic full time.
That's
and I was
great.
like, that was always my dream, is that I can take what I love and take my passion and actually get paid for it.
Sure.
Which I thought wouldn't happen until I was like 60 or 7 and retired, you know? The fact that I can do this now, it's like, it was a lot of fear that was holding me back. That's all it really was fear of the unknown, fear of the, oh, maybe I can't do this. What if I fail? What if I lose everything? And it's like, no, like I can do this, and I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome. No, I'm pleased to hear that, and that that you had, and I mean, there is also something about the beauty of Uber is that it's not a burned bridge. You know, if you go through a slow 6-month season, you still have a safety net, a lifeline, but there is something about just saying like, well, yeah, I enough people have told me that I should be doing this for my job. Let's at least take a stab at it. So that's really awesome. You know,
but the beautiful thing too is, like you said, because it's not a burn bridge, it's like, it was a great way for me to transition.
Sure.
The working world, or 9 to 5 as they call it, to working for myself, to now working for myself, but fully doing what I love.
Right.
You know? So
That's awesome.
Like, it's the best.
Well, very cool. I talked at the beginning. I said magician and wrestler. We're gonna have to save that for our next chat. So I don't normally do like a cliffhanger type stuff, but we've had some chats off air about magic and wrestling, and I think that'll be fascinating. So next time folks tune in and to us chatting, we should totally talk about that.
Sure.
But before we wrap it up, I do want to let folks know where they can find you on the social medias. So Instagram is the main one. That's I Am Magic Mike on Instagram, and then over on YouTube, your YouTube channel is Magic Mike Madness, and they can follow you and all your adventures on there. But thank you so much for hanging out here today. This was awesome.
Appreciate it.
And yeah, that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast of the Impossible. But for behind the scenes access to my Museum of the Impossible project, as well as info about public shows, private events, social media, and more, you can head on over to peterwood.com. I'm Peter Wood. Thanks.